I'm Charlotta and this is the School of Pattern Cutting. In this video I'm going to show you what a flared sleeve is and how to draft it. We're going to do a whole series of sleeves, so if you're interested in them, if you subscribe and hit the little bell, you get all the notifications and release videos about them. So we already showed you how to make a puff sleeve, which is the top. This is basically the opposite. All the volume goes towards the bottom and it's called a flared sleeve, but people can also sometimes call it, if it's sort of gathered in, it can be called a bishop sleeve. People call it tulip sleeve, a peasant sleeve. There's lots of different words, but what it basically means is instead of a straight sleeve, you're adding lots of volume toward the bottom. And in this case, we started straight from the top and the volume is sort of evenly spread. But for more advanced versions, you could, for example, only start the volume halfway down. It's a bit trickier. So if you want to learn how to do it, let me know and I try to make a video about it. So as you can see, it's a really nice sleeve. It's got quite a lot of volume. This is probably, I've put in about, I think something like 20 centimeters. But as you can see, it's still not that big. So it's one of those sleeves where the more volume, the better. So on paper, it might look massive, but because it goes into a curve, into a tube, on the body actually will be quite, it will be less extreme when you think. This would work beautifully in a really fine silk, a fine cotton. In calico, it looks a bit stiff. Wool would be beautiful as well. So now you know what a flared sleeve is. I'm gonna take it off a mannequin and show you how to draft it. So let's have a look at our flared sleeve off the mannequin. As you can see, when I've flattened it out, you can really see how big it is. So to show you, it's on the flat, it's 25 centimeters. So the circumference is 50 centimeters, and that is compared to on your normal sleeve, it's 24. So I actually put in already 25 centimeters and it's not that big. If you see these sort of really nice floaty chiffon sleeves, they might be this wide, so you really get the drapey. And the same as if you wanted to gather that into a bell-shaped sleeve, this wouldn't be actually that extreme, would it? So you might actually say it's double again, and then you could either gather it or dart it or seam it. It could become really beautiful, or you could actually become what is called I think it's, they actually have a seam, so it's a proper bell. I think it's called a bell-shaped sleeve. If you like to know more about different sort of ways of shaping your volume to your wrist, let me know in the comments below, because I really love sort of playing around with details like that. So I'd love to do a whole series on that. And it's sort of quite on trend. There's lots of really lovely dresses and even coats with these sort of oversized wrists. So I'm going to show you how to draft this quite basic flare, but it's a really good technique to learn because it plays a whole sleeve compared to the puffed sleeve, which only plays with your sleeve head. So the first thing I need to do is, as usual, transfer my block onto paper. So I've got a quite long piece of paper, but it's quite narrow, just big enough to fit my sleeve on. So I'm going to trace around it as usual, and I'm going to mark all my notches and my straight of grain. As you can see, we got the straight of grain line, or the sort of shoulder line, which is really important for balance. And we also got the elbow line. I'm actually going to mark the elbow line because as I add volume, it's a second guide for adding the right amount of volume. So I'm done with my block now, so I'm just going to draw in my elbow line, and then my straight of grain line should be at right angles if I've done it properly. And this is where a meter stick is great as well, because your sleeve is actually longer than your pattern master. And this is gonna be my straight off grain for later. So what I need to do now is add some volume. And the way I do it, again, I'm gonna slash my sleeve and I'm gonna slash it all the way. And I want to sort of add the volume evenly throughout the whole sleeve. So I'm gonna just do parallel lines. I'm gonna do it in blue. And in theory, I'm starting at the top of the sleeve, but there is a way of starting halfway down. It's a bit trickier. Let me know if you want how to learn it, and it creates a different type of volume. Or if you want a really tight fitted sleeve, make this into a seam and then add the equivalent of a flounce. Or a gather even. So that would look then really tight and then have lots of volume at the bottom. But I'm going all the way. So I'm actually gonna number them just in case. It's good practice, even if I don't need to. I'm gonna cut all along them, but I'm gonna actually leave them attached at the top. So first of all, I'm gonna cut around my sleeve head. And then I need to cut into my different lines. And I'm cutting just where it hits the sleeve. So I'm leaving it attached just at the sleeve height by just a millimeter. Okay, so this is your dissected pattern all cut up. This is by attaching it, leaving it attached is a bit easier because as you can see it just completely collapses. So you can see this is now where I can add volume. And I'm quickly going to cut along this underarm seam just so you can see the pattern. So you can see this is how you then create the volume. So it's a bit trickier in the puff sleeve, but just because you're working with really long pieces. I'm going to cut them all at the bottom so I can really see what I'm doing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a big piece of paper and then I'm actually going to pin my pieces first before gluing them, because otherwise what happens with stuff like this is you end up with wrinkling and I don't want that to happen. So I want to add about 25 centimeters. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gaps. So each gap I need to add 5 centimeters. So that's quite straightforward. A bit of basic maths. So I'm going to lift it up and put a big piece of paper underneath. So now I just need to quickly glue down my paper, and then I've got my new flared sleeve pattern. So each one I'm gonna just glue the first one, and then I'm gonna pin the other ones in place and glue them one by one. So this is one of my straight ones. So I'm gonna mark 5 centimeters either side. So then the next one, you can either then, what you could do is that you actually pin it in place and then you glue it bit by bit. So what you can do is you pin it in place up here and then you glue it. And then you can pin the top half later. And it needs to just hit that black line. And then you always smooth from the top down to make sure it's really flat. And we're going to do the same with the other side. So again, I wanted to hit roughly that line, so I'm going to smooth it down and pin it. And then again, add some glue. And it doesn't need to be perfectly glued, but it just needs to stick down because then you add seam allowance anyway. So again, mark 5 centimeters on both sides, and you might just have enough space on this pattern. Okay, so again I'm going to glue this piece, pin the top and glue the bottom. And as you can see here, it sort of becomes a curved line. So it's just a good guide to show you that you're working properly. And I just got one more up here. So again, just glue it in place. So glue it in its place here. And then the last thing, again 5 centimeters. And it's just on the paper. Okay. So again, I'm going to pin it. So you can see it looks absolutely massive on paper. And if you had done a flared sleeve before, you'd think, oh my god, I need to make it smaller. But on fabric, it doesn't look a bit big. So last thing I'm going to show you is how to draw your cuff line. So I've turned it 90 degrees so you can see the curve at the bottom. And we need the pattern master. And we're just going to redraft your line, and I'm also going to remark my straight of grain. So you can either use your straight end, or because you want sort of a really nice shallow curve, so use the shallow curve of your pattern master and move along as you do it, because you want it to look straight but it's actually really curved. You don't want it too wobbly. And what's interesting as well, as you can see, these are sort of different levels. So if I draw them with a straight first, it nearly hits it. But can you see it's now a bit wonky? So I'm just gonna redraft it and make it slightly deeper, because it's better if you, especially with a flare, it's better if it's too long and a tiny bit too short. So you can see this is your new hem or cuff hem, and then we're just gonna drawing your straight of grain, and you're gonna cut one pair later on. But first you need to make your 12, and then if you, for example, wanted to have more like a drapey one, you would actually extend it. But try out the flared cuff first. Let me know how you get on, either in the comments below or tag us on Instagram or drop us a line on Pinterest. And don't forget to subscribe to see our whole new series on sleeves. Thank you very much.